Hello everyone! In this lesson, we're going to learn about Webpack. Webpack is at the center of all of the automation that we're going to be setting up in the course. Let's begin by asking ourselves, what exactly is Webpack? Well, if we take a look at the official Webpack website, we see that it says bundle your assets, bundle your scripts, bundle your images, and bundle your styles. So Webpack bundles things. That means that it's a bundler. But what in the world does that mean? What's a bundler? Well, to completely oversimplify things, remember how we were able to use the npm install command to pull in packages from the npm grocery store? Well, Webpack can help us bundle up those packages that our website depends on in a way that is easy for visitors of our website to download and consume. Now, granted, that's just one of about 5,000 different things that Webpack can do for us, but it is an important one. Now, before we move on any further, I want to let you know that if you're anything like me, during the next few chapters, Webpack might seem overly complicated or like it's not worth the effort. But trust me, by the end of the course, you'll be wondering how you ever lived as a web developer without Webpack. And you don't need to take my word for it. So here on the npm page for the Webpack package, we can see that just in the last week, Webpack has been downloaded over 8.3 million times. This lets you know that Webpack is absolutely an industry standard and not just an obscure tool that I'm a big fan of. Alright, now at this point, in order to understand what Webpack actually does, let's get our hands dirty. So first, let's make sure that we have something worth bundling. So I want you to jump into your text editor and open up the travel site folder that we set up in a previous lesson. So in my case, I have this folder on my desktop named Sites, and then I have the travel site folder. So go ahead and drag this onto your VS Code, or within VS Code, you can click File and then Open or Open Folder, and just choose that directory. So within the travel site folder, we have a folder named App. And within this App folder, let's create something that we would want Webpack to bundle for us. Now, Webpack can work with all sorts of different file types, but out of the box, without any extra configuration, Webpack only understands JavaScript files. So right now, let's create a new JavaScript file that we would want Webpack to process for us. So to stay organized within our app folder, let's jump into the assets folder. Currently we just have the images folder. Let's close that. And within the assets folder, let's create a brand new folder just for JavaScript files. So right click on assets and choose new folder. We could name it anything, but just so you and I are on the same page, let's name this new folder scripts. Okay, and let's create a new JavaScript file within this new scripts folder. So right click on scripts, choose new file. Again, we could name it anything, but let's name it uppercase A. Let's call it app.js. Okay, now within this new empty JavaScript file, let's write a bit of test or example code. So just for a quick test, maybe let's create an annoying alert pop-up in the web browser. So to do that, we can just say alert in parentheses. In those parentheses, let's say quotes, and then hello, this is just a test. Let's go ahead and save this file. Now, this code is so simple that we don't actually need Webpack, right? We didn't split our code into multiple files to stay organized, nor are we leveraging any packages from npm, but that's not the point. That complexity will come later in the course. For now, we just want a JavaScript file, no matter how simple or complex it is, so that we can practice telling Webpack to look at it, process it, and bundle it. So the question becomes, how do we begin actually using Webpack? And the answer is we go to our command line. If you're using VS Code, you can open your command line by just clicking on the View menu and then selecting Terminal. Or for a keyboard shortcut, and this works on both Windows and Mac, you can just hold down the Control key and then simultaneously press the tilde key, which is the key to the left of the number 1 or right above the tab key, and that will toggle your command line. Okay, within your command line, I want you to run the following command with me. So type this out, npm install, and we want to install two packages. The first package is named Webpack, as you might have guessed. Add a space, and the second package we want to install is named Webpack-CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Interface. And finally, at the end of the command, enter a space and then --save-dev. After you've typed in this entire command, go ahead and press enter. Now, even if you're using a very fast computer and internet connection, this installation could take upwards of 30 seconds or so be patient. But once it completes, this means we now have Webpack within our local project. So now the question becomes, how do we actually use or leverage Webpack? And the answer is that we want to create a configuration file within the root of our folder. So not even within our app folder, just within the root of our travel site folder, I want you to right-click and choose New File. Now the name of this file absolutely matters. It needs to be lowercase webpack.config.js. Go ahead and press enter. Now Webpack will know to look for a file with this exact name. And within this new file, we essentially tell Webpack what we want it to do. And in order to do that, we will begin by typing a pair of curly brackets. So we're creating a JavaScript object, and we give it different properties to tell Webpack what to do. To create this character, you just hold down the Shift key and press the key to the right of your P key. Okay, within these two curly brackets, let's drop down just to stay organized. And to start out, we only need to define one property, and its name is entry. So type in entry : and then a pair of quotes, and now this is where we type a path that points towards our JavaScript file that we want to bundle. Right, so we want to point towards this file, app.js, the file we created a few moments ago. So it lives within the app folder, and then assets, and then scripts. So for our file path here within these quotes, let's say // to start with the current root directory, and then go into the app folder, / and then go into the assets folder, / and then go into the scripts folder, / and then look for the file that is named uppercase app.js. Right, so we're saying the entry point to our JavaScript application, or we're saying the file that we want Webpack to watch and process and bundle lives at this path. All right, now for the time being, this is the only property we need to set up. So now the question becomes, how do we actually tell Webpack to use this file as its instructions and actually run, actually process and bundle our file? Well, first, up at the very top of this file, on the very first line of code, even right before the opening curly bracket, I want you to type out module.exports equals. Okay, and now we can go ahead and save this file. So this just sets things up so that when Webpack loads this file, it knows that this JavaScript object we just created is what should be exported and used. All right, now we're on to the final step to get Webpack to actually run. What we need to do now is jump into our package.json file. Within this package.json file, we have properties such as name, version, dependencies, dev dependencies. And right now we're looking for a section or property named scripts. You will likely already have a property named scripts, but if you don't have one, you can just add one like this. So after maybe version or name, right after the comma, you can just drop down to a new line and say quotes, scripts, : and then curly brackets, and then right after those curly brackets, add a comma. Okay, and then within those curly brackets, we can create as many different npm scripts as we want to. Essentially, an npm script is a command that we will be able to run from the command line. Now, your package.json file probably already contains something like this, a test script within the pre-existing scripts section. That's okay. What we can do maybe right above that line, but still within the scripts object, so just like this, we can create a new script and we can give it any name we want. Let's name it dev. So quotes dev and then a colon and then quotes, and all we need within the quotes is simply Webpack. And then be sure to include a comma after those quotes. Cool. The reason we needed to do this is because we don't want to have to install Webpack globally on our computer. So if we just went to the command line and tried to run Webpack directly from the command line, our computer would have no idea what we mean. However, if we create an npm script like this, well, it will have no trouble looking within our node modules folder and finding the Webpack package. So check this out. Go ahead and save this current file that we're in, and then open up your command line. Now check this out. If we want to run this script that we just created named dev, we can just say in the command line, npm run, and then the name of the script. So that's dev. And then go ahead and press enter. Cool. So notice in your sidebar, that just created a brand new folder named dist. And within that folder, there's a new file named main.js. So Webpack looked at our app.js file, and it processed it and bundled it and created this new main.js file. This is great, but what if we don't want the new generated file to be named main.js? What if we want to control what it's named? And also, what if we don't want it to go into this dist folder? What if we just wanted the newly generated or bundled file to live within our app folder? Well, let's set that up right now. So jump back into your webpack.config.js file, and right at the end of this entry line, let's add a comma, and then we can drop down after the comma to a new line, and let's add a property named output. So output colon, and then curly brackets to create a JavaScript object. In between them we can drop down. First, let's add a property named file name. So file name colon, quotes, and then this is where we can control what the bundled file should be named. Just so you and I are on the same page, let's name it bundled.js. Okay, and then in order to control where the newly generated file is placed, so if we didn't want it to be in this dist folder, we can just say comma at the end of this line, and then say path colon, and imagine we want the bundled copy to sit in the app folder directly, so sitting side by side our index.html file. So to do that, we'd say path colon, and then type this out with me, path.resolve, parentheses, underscore dir name, short for directory name, comma, and then quotes, and then app. If you're wondering why this path looks like a different syntax from this path, it's because Webpack requires an absolute path for the output. Now, in order for this code to work, we do need to manually import or require in the Node.js path package. So up at the very top of this file, up at the start of line 1, let's press enter and create a new line up here and just say const path equals, and then require parentheses. Within these parentheses, let's just say quotes path. We do not need to npm install path. This is just part of the Node library. This makes sure that no matter what operating system you're on, Windows, Mac, or Linux, it will be able to generate an absolute path to the correct folder. Okay, and finally, while we're at it, let's make sure we address this annoying warning message that we see in the command line. So it's just warning us that we didn't set the mode of Webpack. So to fix that, maybe right after the output property, so right after this inner closing curly bracket, you can say comma, and then let's add a property named mode, colon, quotes, and let's set the mode to development. Right, because we're just still developing things. We're not ready to deliver these files to the public or up to a live web host yet. So go ahead and save this file. If you need to pause the video to make sure that your Webpack config file looks like mine, that's okay. Now before we test this out again, let's be sure to delete the dist folder in the left-hand sidebar. right? We didn't want the bundled file to be output there any longer. So I'm just going to right click on dist and choose delete. Okay, and then down in our command line, let's tell Webpack to run again. So we just run npm run dev. Go ahead and press enter. Cool, so notice now within the root of our app folder, right alongside index.html, we have the brand new generated bundled.js file. Let's actually jump into our HTML file and load or import in the JavaScript file. So jump into index.html and scroll down to the very bottom of this file. Down at the very bottom, right above this closing body tag, type this in with me. So let's create a new line and let's say script tag. Your text editor should automatically create the closing script tag. Now on the opening script tag, let's just point towards that new bundled file. So src equals quotes, and the name of the file is bundled.js. Okay, go ahead and save this file. And now let's go load or preview this HTML file in our web browser. So here's my web browser, and then if I go find that HTML file on my computer, so sites, travel site, app, there is index.html. Just go ahead and drag that on top of your web browser. Cool, we see that annoying alert pop up from our app.js file. Right? Hello, this is just a test. Let's practice updating this pop-up message and having Webpack generate the bundle again. So in our text editor, jump into app.js. Let's change this so that it ends with 3 exclamation marks instead of a period. So go ahead and save that. And now if you refresh in the browser, you will not see that change. So we need to tell Webpack to generate the bundle again. To do that, we would just jump back into our command line and run npm run dev. So that will run Webpack once again. And now if we refresh in the browser, we do see the latest message, right? We see those 3 exclamation marks. Now you might be thinking, that's really inconvenient. I don't want to have to jump to my command line every time I make a change to a file. Well, luckily for us, we don't need to. So check this out. Jump back into your Webpack config.js file, and maybe right underneath this mode line, let's add a comma at the end of that line and then drop down. And if we just say watch, colon, and set it to true, and then save this file, check this out. Now if we run our Webpack task, so in the command line, if you run npm run dev, well, because we set the watch option to true, Webpack will stay running, and it will watch and detect anytime we save a change to our source file or our entry file. So check this out. If we go back into app.js, and maybe if I remove these exclamations entirely and then save the file, that triggers a fresh rebuild or rebundle. So if we go back to the web browser and refresh, you see the updated text. Or if we go back and change this text entirely, the sky is blue, and hit save, Webpack is actively watching us. So we don't need to run the command manually again and again. If we go back and refresh, we can see that Webpack has already bundled it for us. Now, because we told Webpack to watch our files for us, it's going to continue to run in the command line until we tell it to stop. So when we are ready for the Webpack task to stop watching us, in your command line, you just press the Control key and then simultaneously press the C key. So Control C, and it stops. Now, I will be the first one to admit that this specific example is not impressive at all. But that's only because our app.js file is so simple, right? We just have the annoying alert. If we were actually doing something complex in this file, then Webpack would be a lifesaver, because now every time we save a change to this file, we have an automated workflow tool that magically makes everything happen in a matter of milliseconds. In other words, now that we have Webpack watching and processing and bundling this file for us, we can start to build our project and website and gradually add complexity and new features as needed. And Webpack will be along for the ride with us. In our very next lesson, things are going to get very real and concrete and useful, because we're going to be implementing CSS into our Webpack workflow. It should be a lot of fun. Let's keep things rolling, and I'll see you then.